All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another market breakdown. It has been a week since I last did one of these, and also it's been over a week since I've last traded, or traded Forex rather. I have traded gold futures on the side. Since I do scalping, it's a little bit less, you know, the moves are smaller, so it's easier to get in and out of the market even when the market is consolidating. So I was able to catch a few small moves on gold, um, on the 1 minute, 5 minute time frame. I was able to catch, let's see, where was I able to trade? This was on the 18th. I already went over that one. I'm pretty sure I was able to catch one of these drops and I was able to catch this buy as well. So just a few small moves in between, nothing major. But let's go ahead and check out what we have from the previous week of trading. A lot of small moves have happened, but nothing super, super major, I think. I haven't exactly paid attention too closely. So just in general, you can see how we were expecting to see sells on Euro CHF, a small pullback. So this was Friday. Monday, we had a pullback into the EMA, price sold. So that happened. AUD NZD is this. Uh, TradingView added a few features. We had pullback. Let's see, Friday, Monday, price came back, retested the 4 hour EMA, and then bought. That's pretty solid. Euro NZD did not do what we wanted it to do. We were expecting to see a pullback into the EMA to buy. However, price did not buy. Euro CAD, we got wicked out of this trade right here. And then price went down and hit our take profit. Now, this was a much slower trade than I would have liked. We entered, we had a good push to the downside, got taken out in two 4 hour candles, and then price has basically traded in our direction ever since then. We actually did get the break and retest underneath this area of interest, exactly how I wanted to see. You see how we broke underneath, clear break of the area of interest, retest, and then sell. Price sold, came back, retested previous structure, and sold even more. So this is probably one of the cleanest trades that took place last week and the week before. After that, we have NZD USD. I was looking for a break and retest underneath the daily structure. Now you'll notice that the weekly structure is bullish. The daily structure is bullish above the EMA. I was basically waiting for price to break underneath the EMA, retest to sell. Obviously, that did not happen. And it kind of makes sense. If you look at market structure, last month we closed with a very, very strong rejection. And then this month, ever since, we have had a push, shift the structure on the weekly time frame, pull back into previous structure, pull back into area of interest, into EMA, and a push to the upside. So from here, we'll go over that a little bit later, but we'll probably see more buys. NZD CAD is a trade that we took on two positions. We actually got a perfect exit on the trade. Very, very clean exit here. I basically didn't want to hold into the holidays. I waited for a rejection candle, and that was given to me basically on this 15-minute time frame. We have a 15-minute rejection candle, engulfing candle, and then I exited basically somewhere within this area here. So yeah, if we didn't have that win, we would we would be in the red for the month of December. But I'm pretty sure at um, the current moment, yeah, we ended up positive overall. So the month closes off like this, and these are the statistics of my entire year in trading. Once again, I won't trade until the new year, probably January 5th. So I'm happy with this, and I can move into the next year with a solid foundation and statistics to back it up. All right, so let's go ahead and actually get into the breakdown now. So we're going to remove all of this and start with the clean slate, starting with Bitcoin. Bitcoin on the weekly time frame is still bearish. We still have this lower high forming, in my opinion. So we have a lower low, lower high for the next lower low. Now we have seen similar structures in the past, like right here. This is a similar structure to the one we're seeing right here, right? Kind of, but not really. The differences are, one, this is a clean pullback, lower low, and then shift the structure and price pushed up. And two, we're actually below the EMA, whereas here we have been above the EMA for quite a while. That kind of leads me to believe that we're probably going to see something like this, where price is going to, on the new year, right? New year, new month, price is probably going to push up into the EMA. Now notice we're still bearish here, right? Here we went a higher high, shift the structure right here at this point. We never created a lower low, so this was never a shift the structure to go bullish because we never broke above this structure point right here. And then just a push to the downside, price eventually reached 15K. So it reduced by from its all-time high to its all-time low 77%. So 77% of price was taken out of Bitcoin. Now, I am not a holder of crypto. Okay, so 77% would be these previous highs right here. So there is an area of interest right inside of this area, which could be considered the target for price to be. Now, I'm not a holder of crypto, right? But the way that I view, and I've just thought about this recently, and I'm not sure if this even makes sense to other people, but the way that I view crypto, or at least Bitcoin, right, is the amount of billionaires that crypto has created, right? So let's say somebody has $100 billion worth of Bitcoin. If they bought in at, 0 point whatever, 10 cents. If Bitcoin was to reach $1 million the way that people want it to, or even 500,000, those people who have $100 billion worth of, 10, $20 billion worth of crypto would become trillionaires. They would have more money than Elon Musk. And in my opinion, I don't think that that's even possible. Like, I don't think that somebody who has an imaginary coin can be valued more than somebody who owns almost $1 trillion worth of company, So I don't know. I've given it some thought, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, there are other cryptos that could potentially explode, but Bitcoin, I think, is going to probably cap out around $200,000 and just kind of consolidate there. I have no idea though, We're heading into a very online and, like, not imaginary, but like with AI and all of these other things, we are transitioning into more of a non-dollar backed economy. So maybe Bitcoin will eventually explode, but I'm not sure how that will affect the overall wealth of the world. But yeah, like with gold, it's one thing. You can own gold, but with Bitcoin, it's really just nothing. So yeah, Bitcoin does drop. I think it may drop all the way down to here, but obviously this is going to be your first target point. On the monthly time frame, we are above the EMA, and it would only make sense for price to reach the EMA and bounce off of it. But if things do go bad, it could go all the way down to potentially 30,000, but in my opinion, probably like 70, 75, 73,000. All right, enough about that. Obviously, it's all just speculation and just critical thinking, in my opinion. But a good indicator of what price might be doing will be the daily EMA. If we break above, we could see a push to the upside. And if not, then we'll probably just see price continuing to sell. All right, SPX. NASDAQ, US 30. Weekly time frame has created or is creating another higher high. Here, we were still waiting to create that higher high. And here we have just created a higher high on SPX. Okay, so we're clearly bullish. We're clearly continuing to push higher. Daily time frame shifted bullish on SPX. NASDAQ is still bearish on the daily time frame since we had a shifted structure here, lower low, pullback. And we did close with quite a little doji here. So maybe we'll see some selling pressure in the opening week. Here we are still bullish. We've never closed above this structure point. Or did we? We may have. No, we did not. Okay, so we still have a higher high, higher low, previous structure, area of interest. Continuations to the upside. At this point, I would just watch the 4-hour time frame. As you can see, the price action is very clear and it is very bullish. The 4-hour EMA usually tells us whether or not price is going to continue pressing higher or have a pullback. At the moment, it looks like it's going to open and just shoot upwards. Kind of looks like, let's see. I'm not sure if there's a good example. Kind of looks like this, where we've had this pullback and push up. We might open and press downwards first, retest the EMA, and then shoot up. That could be what we're going to do. You know, if we open, create a wick to the upside, and then just consolidate, pull back, pull back, pull back, and then shoot up. So in my opinion, I do think we're going to need some kind of a pullback before we have a continuation to the upside. But overall, we are very, very bullish on SPX, NASDAQ, and US 30 on all of the time frames. Weekly is bullish, daily is bearish, and 4-hour is bullish. Okay. All right. Moving on to gold. Gold and silver are going to be, oh wow, I never even looked at silver that closely. Gold has been pressing higher. Last week we had a very, very aggressive bullish run. Clearly we're back in this type of a market where price is just pumping, pumping, and pumping. We are all-time highs, $4,500. At this point, I don't really see a stopping point. I think we're just going to continue climbing. We may have a day of pulling back, maybe 2 days of pulling back. But overall, I do expect just consistent moves to the upside. See, these daily pullbacks are just 4-hour pullbacks into the EMA on that time frame or in the 2-hour time frame. So pretty consistent moves to the upside, all based around this 2-hour and 4-hour EMA. In terms of previous structure, price doesn't really revisit previous structure. Like here, this would be considered a previous structure. Price never exactly made it back. Then there's the next previous structure right here. Price never made it back. So it doesn't exactly always make it back to those previous structures. At the current moment, we have created a previous structure right here, and we have retested it. So honestly, I think we're going to open. When market opens in a few hours, I think we're just going to shoot up. Realistically, we're probably just going to continue pressing higher. If we do break below the 2-hour EMA, which is very, very unlikely, we'll probably see sellers, but as of right now, there's no reason to even consider that being an option. Same thing with silver. Silver is moving like crazy. We went from $71 to $79 per ounce. Price hasn't ever moved like this. Like there has never been a day where price gained $9 or $8 in one session or in one day. This could probably be because of all of the stuff happening. Obviously, it's in the global economy, but also with Trump, Venezuela, and all of these other things. putting pressure on the economy, and people are finding the safer assets to be gold and silver right now. Moving on to the dollar index. Dollar index is currently underneath the EMA, underneath the area of interest. Yeah, so pull back into previous structure, into area of interest to sell. On the dollar index, looks like the dollar is losing strength pretty consistently now. Weekly time frame is still bearish. Daily time frame is creating a lower low. So now we're creating a lower high for the next lower low. The daily pullback has already started. Usually takes 1, 2, 3, 4 days, 1, 2, 3 days. So anywhere between, I don't know, it could take less, it could take more, but in general, between 2 to 5 days worth of pulling back before price continues to sell. And as you can see, we have a bearish engulfing candle on the weekly time frame. So what do we need? We need a wick pullback and then a continuation candle right after that. Okay. So that's probably what we're going to see as price moves into the new year. Now, one thing that I just thought of kind of like, and I'm not an economist or a financial advisor, so I don't really understand all of the stipulations of price moving downwards towards the end of the year. Potentially, companies can report their earnings as lower, so they don't have to pay as many taxes. And going into the next year, they have a huge explosion of business, and potentially that's the way that things are going, since things are kind of slowing down. But I don't know. All right, so moving into the actual pairs now. Euro CHF weekly time frame. Weekly time frame, price is currently bullish. Daily time frame, price is currently bearish. Lower low, we're creating the lower high right now. And 4-hour time frame, price is currently bearish as well. So we have this head and shoulders pattern on the daily time frame and on the 4-hour time frame. So let's just go through this really quickly. So we're bearish here, bearish here. We have 2 time frames in sync to sell. We've retested the EMA. Monthly time frame is about to close with a nice rejection candle, so that next month in January we might be able to create a wick to the upside and then a selling monthly candle. So that's the way that I see things playing out moving into next year. But this week, what do we have? We have a round psychological level of 0.93. We have a daily area of interest. We can kind of frame this however we want, but I would probably do it like this, where we have 1 structure point here, 2, 3, 4 structure points in general right there. And we have the neckline of the head and shoulders inside of this area, as well as the EMA. Okay, so we have a lot of good things. So we have an area of interest, weekly time frame. We don't really have much in terms of structure. You can maybe consider this being a double top, but it's so far away from where we are right now that I really wouldn't even mess around with it. I think that this would have been the retest of the neckline, and then this was the lower low. So right now there's nothing in terms of market structure or pattern. We are not retesting a previous structure, and we don't have a candlestick rejection, but we are retesting the EMA, or we have retested the EMA on the weekly time frame. But did we though? That was 2-3 weeks ago. Yeah, I wouldn't even consider this a confluence in general. Maybe within the previous week, like this week right here, that could have considered or been counted as a confluence. But we're 3 weeks into the push to the downside, so I wouldn't say that on the weekly time frame. On the daily time frame, we have a pattern. We would be retesting previous structure with this pullback right here, right? retest previous structure, retest the EMA, and we would wait for a candlestick rejection, so a daily doji candle. After the daily pullback, 4-hour time frame, same thing. You have a very clear head and shoulders pattern. You would be retesting the previous structures. You would be retesting the EMA. You would probably break above the EMA shortly. And if that's the case, you might want to wait for a break and retest underneath the EMA. In fact, that will probably come with the daily rejection candle, right? Because the daily rejection candle is just a doji candle. So let's say on the 4-hour time frame, we end up doing something. Oh man. Let's say on the 4-hour time frame, we do something like this, right? We push up, we break above the EMA, we push up like this, and then we break back below and we do this, right? So this is what happens on the 4-hour time frame, but right, so the 4-hour time frame actually goes bullish and then it shifts bearish again. But on the daily time frame, this looks like a wick to the upside. It looks like a body like this, and then it looks like a wick to the downside like this. So this is the wick. This is basically the pullback. This is how price closes. And then the next day, whatever the next day does, say we're right here when we close, the next day gives us a small pullback like this with the wick, and then we sell the following day after that. So our entry we want our entry to be on this second candlestick after the daily rejection. Okay. That way the 4-hour time frame looks good, the daily time frame looks good, and we gain all of those extra confluences. So yeah, retesting previous structure would happen on the 4-hour time frame, and a candlestick rejection, hopefully right inside of this area right here, we would get a candlestick rejection to sell. Okay, we'd be underneath the 4-hour EMA, hopefully underneath the 30-minute EMA, and then obviously you pick one of these two entry confluences, and you have yourself a 115% trade. This is amazing. This looks good on almost every single time frame, and it is one that I will be interested in taking. Okay, that's an idea of how I try to structure my thoughts and my my trading habits. All right, moving on. AUDNZD, weekly time frame, bullish. Daily time frame is bullish. We have the higher high, and 4-hour time frame is currently also bullish. We have this new higher high right here. I'm not a huge fan of the way that price has been moving here, but we have finally broken above this consolidation and we have retested it. Now, preferably, I would have liked to see price retest it a little bit more aggressively and push higher, because now if price does do this, then we'll go bearish on the 4-hour time frame. Now, maybe that's not a terrible thing, since we will have, also, I just realized that on this previous trade, we have 105% because the weekly time frame is bullish. So this is what we would have for the sells. Anyways, here, we would only have 2 time frames in sync to buy, which is totally fine if you have the proper confluences. Daily, weekly. It would be nice to see a wick to the downside that reaches our area of interest. And price usually does give good wicks, as you can see on the weekly time frame. There are a few areas, but usually price gives you a decent retracement in order to enter off of the weekly time frame. So a nice 4-hour pullback here would be good to see. It would be good to see. Maybe, I think this is a good example of something similar where we had this move to the downside. You have this engulfing candle down, right? So this is your structure point to the downside. Price actually went bearish or bullish momentarily only in order to continue to sell. So if this does happen, if we do move down to here, have an aggressive pullback, and price does shift in the opposite direction, that may not be the worst thing in the world, because we would create a double top right here or a double bottom here. And as soon as price kind of breaks through that area, you can probably enter on the lower time frames. In fact, we can take a look at what that would look like on the lower time frames. Here it looked like a proper, there's probably news that happened. I think that's what happened. But yeah, there is a proper shift to the downside, retest of previous structures, and then sell. Now, depending on where you placed your stop loss, you may have gotten wicked out of this trade. But if you placed it properly, let's say right here or right here, stop loss above this area, you would have been totally fine to take this trade. So I do not hate this. I just dislike it slightly. So we will put this on our list once again to potentially take buys from our area of interest. Okay, so it will basically be a 4-hour, let's write this down, 4-hour pullback to buy. We already have it written down. And then for this one, it is a 4-hour pullback to sell. So we have that written down as well. Moving on. Weekly time frame on Euro NZD is bullish, right? So we're bullish on the weekly. The daily time frame is currently bullish as well. Actually, I lied. The daily time frame has shifted bearish because you have this engulfing candle that has created a bullish engulfing right here. That is a separate structure. We had the shift of structure, so now the daily time frame is actually bearish. And the 4-hour time frame, if I'm not mistaken, yep, is also bearish. And this actually gave you a nice potential entry right here. After creating the triple top break retest underneath the EMA engulfing candle. So your trade could have looked like this. Obviously, we're talking about trading the 2 days before Christmas. Not an ideal way to go about it. But if you're feeling risky and you're a little bit more of a gambler, then this would have been a decent trade. For us, however, 2 time frames in sync to sell. Daily time frame is bearish. I don't hate it. There's a weekly head and shoulders pattern here, a daily head and shoulders pattern, and a 4-hour triple top. The one thing that I would consider for this to be a better trade is like we can draw our area of interest a little bit better. I would look for a proper break and retest underneath this area of interest to sell. This could take a week, maybe 2. So for right now, just going to stay away from this one. Euro CAD weekly time frame bearish. We have a pullback, doji, and a sell. Underneath the daily EMA, this one is already gone. We're creating a daily lower low. So not interested in this one. Here, weekly time frame retesting a weekly head and shoulders now. So we're retesting this structure right here. Shoulder, head, shoulder. We've broken down, retested. This would require a lot in order to take sells, but we are in an area where we could very well see sellers coming back into this market. As of right now, the buys are the better option. Daily time frame is bullish. 4-hour time frame is also bullish. But if price gives us a nice shift, break and retest, maybe a head and shoulders pattern right here on the daily time frame, then we could consider taking sells on NZD USD. And if not, then you're potentially just continuing to take buys, retest of the previous structure of the EMA in order to continue to buy. Personally, just going to stay away from it for now. I would prefer to take the sells. But if you look at it on the, well, actually, I feel like overall, this rejection candle in November has already given, it served its purpose, right? So in December, we've had this bullish candle. After this bullish candle, anything can happen. Like we could just see a bearish engulfing continuation to the downside. or a continuation to the upside, which would mean that we would have to break above the weekly EMA. But if you guys are purely, trading based off of market structure, then the buys look better than the sells 100%. Okay. So right now, I'm just going to stay away from it, but I do like the market structure. You can see it looks very, very clean. In fact, what you could probably do is you just catch the next pullback. We missed these buys. Like we were supposed to probably take them, since the pullback looks very similar to some of these pullbacks right here. As you can see, you can properly execute some trades as soon as price breaks back above the EMA. Even like above this 1 hour EMA here, you saw price underneath and then it broke above very, very, very nicely. You probably could have entered, say, after the retest of this area of interest. Stop loss would have had to be underneath the area of interest, and I don't know what you would target for your take profit. That's the issue. Potentially the high right here. So you would target these highs right here, and that is a 1 to 8.5, potentially a 1 to or 1.85 or a 1 to 2, depending on how you place your stop loss. So you could basically just wait for another trade similar to this one. So if there's a higher high and then you see a nice choppy little move to the downside into the EMA, similar to the way these two moves here happened, these three moves happened, then that is an easy way to catch a trade. Pull back to buy or break and retest to sell. That's what I'm going to write down here. Okay, so I'm gonna put this on the list for now. It's gonna go at the very, very bottom because we probably aren't going to trade it. But when you see a market that moves this nicely, you kind of want to keep it around. You don't want to, you don't want to miss out on anything that it gives you. Moving on, weekly time frame, not terrible. Okay, so NZD CAD. We just went over NZD USD. Weekly time frame is bearish, daily time frame is bearish, so we have a lower low, lower high, potential next lower low. 4 hour time frame is unfortunately was above the EMA. Now that I look at it, it has broken underneath the EMA again and retested it, kind of similar to the way it did here. We had a very aggressive buy, we broke underneath, retested to sell, kind of the same exact thing right there. So there could be, I would say, potential selling happening around this area. The 4 hour time frame was bullish. We created a double top, broke underneath, retested to sell. So at the moment, this right here is the lower high for the lower low, and we're creating the next lower high to create the next lower low. So you have 3 time frames in sync to sell. This is already something that I would be interested in. I would need a little bit more from price. Obviously, I'm not going to trade it this week, but if I was trading this week, it would look something like a nice rejection candle, say a 4 hour bearish engulfing, and then you just enter on the next pullback to sell. So it would be a higher time frame rejection candle with a lower time frame entry signal. So, all right. Weekly time frame on Euro AUD, bearish engulfing candle, daily time frame on the way to create the next lower low. Not interested at the moment. We did get a nice continuation here, Head and Shoulders, break underneath the EMA, retest, bearish engulfing candle, and sell. This one is gone. AUD USD is going to be similar to NZD USD. We were waiting for the break and retest underneath the daily EMA. Never happened. So at the moment, the best option is probably a pullback to buy. If not, then it's going to be the break and retest to sell. Not interested at the moment. Euro GBP weekly time frame is bullish, but it looks like we're creating somewhat of a bearish market structure. We broke underneath the daily EMA. At this point, it would probably look like a break and retest to sell or just a pullback to sell. Not a huge fan of the way price has moved on this pair, so we're just going to ignore it for now. Euro USD finally creating the next higher high on the weekly time frame. Daily has created a new higher high, and we are having a pullback at the moment. Not a huge fan of this one at the moment, so just going to stay away from it. There is a nice area of interest, 1, 2, 3, 4 structure points, but I mean, I guess it's not terrible. You could have a weekly pullback, a wick like this. It always looks cleaner on the higher time frames. Like even the messiest trade looks pretty good on some higher time frames. Here, it would just look like a wick pullback into the area of interest, into previous structure to continue to buy. On the daily time frame, it would look like a continuation to the downside. So maybe another bearish candle or two. And on the 4-hour time frame, it would look like a retest of the EMA. So to each their own. I don't hate it, but I just don't love it. So gonna stay away from this one. GBP NZD or GBP AUD, excuse me. GBP AUD daily time frame retested EMA, trying to create the next lower low, actually trying to shift bearish. I guess we took a loss here at some points. That is unfortunate because price went straight to our take profit. At the moment, not interested. Just going to wait for, obviously, I think price is just retesting and selling. It is pretty simple to see that. We're probably targeting the daily structure point there. So if you were to trade this, you should probably just wait for a pullback into the area of interest to sell. Nothing much more there. GBP NZD weekly time frame is bullish. Daily time frame is bearish. And 4-hour time frame is bearish as well. Not interested. USD CAD. All right, so USD CAD has had quite the turnaround. Looks like the Canadian dollar is getting stronger and the US dollar is getting weaker almost simultaneously, considering how aggressive this sell has been. Now, we have seen similar sells in the past, right? The one that looks most similar to me is this one right here. So price had found a top and then sold very, very aggressively. Then it found a bottom with this rejection candle. In fact, this happened in December of 2023. So almost the same time, December 25th, 2023. How funny is that? So this happened during the last week of the year. And then after that, we had this huge, huge push to the upside. Are we going to see the same thing happening here where we have a rejection candle on the last week of the year and then the following, weeks we have a turnaround? Potentially. We're also kind of following, so yeah, we're following the monthly EMA. That's another thing to consider. We are about to reach what seems to be the bottom of the market almost every single time, and then we just shoot up from there. So I would keep an eye on how price moves in this area. Let's see, 2023 December underneath the EMA. Next thing you know, we're above the daily EMA. So it's basically once price breaks back above the daily and the weekly EMA that you see anything that's really, really tradable. December 2023, right here. Even the 4-hour EMA, if you look at it, December, Friday, Monday the 1st, right here, bam, price shoots up, retest the 4-hour EMA, and the rest is history. So where are we right now? Not above the 4-hour EMA. But if price does this, then that's going to be a different story. As of right now, going to stay away from USD CAD. There is potential, if there is no bearish rejection candle on the weekly time frame, that we might get a pullback into previous structure to sell. That would make sense as well. Weekly time frame is bearish, daily time frame is bearish, and 4-hour time frame is currently also bearish. So you have 3 time frames in sync to sell. But we'll wait and see what happens there. All right, let's try to speed things up a little bit. Weekly time frame, very, very choppy. Daily time frame, also very choppy. Not interested. GBP, USD. Is it a rally to the upside? Imagine if we had taken a buy instead of a sell here. Would have been fantastic. But that did not happen. All right, so here we're at a higher high. So I'm not interested at the moment. GBP CAD weekly time frame is kind of just messing around. Daily time frame. We haven't really created anything worth noting. We are trying to break above the 4-hour EMA. Like, here's my thought, okay? Actually, I have 2 thoughts. We're creating market structure on the daily time frame, right? So we're creating this head and shoulders pattern. So we could be selling, right? We could be trying to sell. But in my opinion, if we are going to sell, would we have not done so by now? Like, we're just stuck right here. So I really do think that price is probably going to try to recover here. We've found a bottom. We've basically reached the EMA here, and we're struggling to break through the trend line through the EMA. If price manages to break above this daily EMA, we'll probably see a retest to buy. Same thing on the 4-hour. It'll basically be a 4-hour push, 4-hour higher high, 4-hour higher low to create the next higher high. Weekly time frame, bearish. Daily time frame is bearish. And so another thing is we kind of created a head and shoulders, or an inverted head and shoulders right here. Shoulder, head, shoulder, really messy looking. Let's see if we can shoulder, head, shoulder. It looks a little bit cleaner, I think, on the daily time frame. You have shoulder, head, shoulder, and then we're retesting the neckline of that reversal pattern. So if we do get some kind of bullish engulfing, that could be our cue or clue to start looking for those buys. So here, it's not even going to be a daily shift to structure. It would be more of, the 4-hour is actually bullish right now. 4-hour bullish. This would be a higher risk. You're waiting for a like a bullish engulfing, but you're waiting for price to break above 4-hour EMA. So you're basically just looking for price to give you something like this, where you have a nice bullish candle breaking. It's like an internal shift of structure. So externally, this is the lower high or higher low. This is the higher high. And we've never broke below or above this structure point. So anything within this level can basically be the structure point. So maybe we're talking about the 2-hour time frame. So a 2-hour shift of structure, because this was the lower low, lower low, lower low. And I think we're creating a double bottom right here. Once we break above this point here, we're looking for a break above the 4-hour EMA and 2-hour shift of structure. So for this one, it is a bit of a higher risk trade, but I do like the idea behind it. Okay. I think the JPY pairs were next. Daily time frame has had a nice pullback to retest. Looks like a 4-hour area of interest. Did all of these have a daily pullback? Daily pullback, daily pullback. So the ones that I can see that would make sense to trade are Euro JPY, because most of these, look at this, okay? Okay, so it would be USD JPY and Euro JPY. The other ones are at the higher high, basically at the higher high, and at the very highest point right now. So these ones are on the way there. This one has the most potential to continue up. This one is, hasn't really made it to that next level yet. In my opinion, I think USD JPY would make the most sense to trade. On the weekly time frame, we have the higher high, right? And we had a weekly pullback, daily pullback into area of support. Daily time frame has created a higher high, pullback to create the next higher high. Weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bullish, 4-hour time frame is bullish as well. You have this higher high, pullback, pullback, pullback. Weekly time frame, do we have around psychological level? Yeah, we do. We're right at 156.5. Do we have an area of interest? Not the best area of interest, but there is one nevertheless. I'm not going to count it. It's an entire 10% for a 4-hour area of interest. Not the best in my opinion. In terms of the weekly time frame, there's no pattern. We are retesting previous structure. We're not retesting the EMA, and we don't have a candlestick rejection. On the daily time frame, we kind of have a pattern. We have this inverted head and shoulders, right? So this is the next shoulder of the head and shoulders. So we have pattern. We are not retesting previous structure, but we are, we're not retesting the EMA, but we do have a candlestick rejection. So here we have two confluences. 4-hour time frame is much cleaner. Here we have an inverted head and shoulders, right? Shoulder, head, shoulder. So yes, we have pattern. We are retesting previous structure. We are retesting the EMA when we pull back, and we hope to have a candlestick rejection. So in reality, I'd like to see a bit more of a pullback, maybe to create the next shoulder and retest the EMA one more time with a maybe bullish engulfing or doji candle. We should be above the EMA when we take the trade. And if you wait for 2 more confluences, you're looking at 95% of a trade set up for buys on USD JPY. So also not terrible. So here we're just looking for a 4-hour pullback to buy. All right. And then last but not least, our CHF pairs. Now, what a terrible trade this was. We took a buy at the very, very top here. Um, Daily time frame had a doji. Well, in reality, there's nothing for us to trade at the moment. We have, first of all, weekly time frame did go bearish, which is nice. So now we have weekly time frame is bearish. Daily time frame has a lower low. So we have a daily lower low, and the 4 hour time frame is also bearish. We're about to go, or we have gone bullish actually. So we're on the way to the area of interest. We're having a daily pullback into the previous structures to sell into the EMA. In my opinion, this is going to be a very, very nice setup when it happens. We basically need a daily or a weekly pullback into these previous structures, into the previous weekly area of interest. And then we should see quite a bit of selling happening. This is going to be on my list as well. And then let's run through here and see what's going on. Weekly time frame is bearish. AUD CHF looks like it's going to have a buy, but it's difficult to tell. Like we're kind of in this type of a situation. If you're going to take a trade, your stop loss would probably have to be underneath these wicks, underneath the area of interest, and underneath the EMA. So yeah, not really interested in this one. Although the structure doesn't look terrible. We're buying against the higher, like this looks like a monthly pullback, right? This looks like a slow monthly pullback in order to give us an incredible selling candle. So I think we're just consolidating. We're creating a bunch of structure, taking a bunch of people out of this market, but we're still underneath the weekly EMA, and we are seeing selling happening. So we might create like a double top, or we might just see a very, very aggressive sell from here. And as soon as we're back underneath the daily EMA, it wouldn't be surprising if we saw a pullback to sell. As of right now, not interested. Weekly time frame is bearish, daily time frame is bullish, and the 4 hour time frame is bullish. But the higher time frames are showing us where the market really wants to go. CAD CHF, kind of a similar situation, except here the market structure is very, very nice, in my opinion. Weekly time frame has created a double bottom. We've pushed up, we've pulled back, retested previous structure. We close with a weekly rejection candle. So if we were to give this a grade, weekly time frame is bullish, daily time frame is bullish, 4 hour time frame is also bullish. We are, I mean, this is a fantastic looking trade. Let's see. Are we at around psychological level? Yes, we are at 0.575. We have retested 0.575. Do we have an area of interest? I think we do. Can very easily be an area of interest right here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 structures. So you have both of those. You have a weekly pattern, double bottom. You're retesting the previous structure, the neckline. You have a candlestick rejection on the weekly time frame, daily time frame. You have a double bottom pattern, retesting previous structures right here, retesting the EMA. You have your candlestick rejections, 4 hour time frame. You have a double bottom. You've retested the previous structure. You have retested the EMA, and you're looking for a rejection now. If you have a bullish candle or a bullish engulfing candle from here, it would not be surprising to see a pullback, bullish engulfing candle. You're above the EMA, and then you get your entry time frames. This is a trade with tons of confluences. Literally top to bottom, every confluence gets filled almost, except for like one or two of them. Now, just because this has so many confluences doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but in my opinion, well, actually, yeah, that's bullish as well. Yeah, so it's 125%. That's quite crazy. Um, CAD CHF, we're waiting for a 4-hour pullback to buy. Okay, that's a good one. One thing to consider is the way that we're looking at the other CHF pairs. So these ones we're expecting to sell versus this one we're expecting to buy. We can't have it both ways. Not always going to be perfect, but we will keep an eye on it regardless. GBP CHF going to be very similar. Doesn't look as clean though. Same thing with NZD CHF. So that basically wraps it up for us. Let's go ahead and order these from greatest to least. Yeah, it's CHF isn't doing much as the other currencies that are changing a little bit more. We've seen that in the recent past. We've seen that with CAD pairs. We've seen that with NZD pairs. There have been a lot of news events around those economies. So, all right. So here we have a 4-hour pullback to sell. This is going to be at the top of the list. 4-hour pullback to buy, top of the list. This is going to be a break above EMA. This is going to be right below those. This is going to be a pullback to buy. So another pullback to buy goes above. Daily pullback. This is going to be at the bottom of the list. This is going to be also a daily pullback. This is going to be a 4-hour pullback to buy. This goes above with these two. And then daily or 4-hour pullback to sell. So this is kind of in between all of those. So this is the quick breakdown of everything. Euro CHF waiting for a 4-hour pullback to sell. If we were to simplify it, it would just be a 4-hour pullback to sell. NZD or AUD NZD, 4-hour pullback to buy. USD JPY, 4-hour pullback to buy. CAD CHF, 4-hour pullback to buy. GBP CAD, basically a 4-hour break and retest or a 2-hour shift to structure to buy. Daily pullback to sell. Okay, daily pullback to sell on USD CHF. NZD USD, daily pullback to buy, or daily shift to structure, break and retest to sell. And then here it is going to be a daily pullback to, did we already go, wait, did we go over this one? No, this is going to be a 4-hour, what am I talking about? This one is going to be, I don't think we went over this one in terms of what we're looking for. This is going to be, we already have the daily rejection. This is going to be a 4-hour pullback. 4-hour pullback to sell because we already had the daily pullback. This was the daily pullback into the area of interest to sell. Now we're waiting on the lower time frame 4-hour pullback to sell. So this one goes at the top of the list here. So this is the list, okay? Are there any questions? Also, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Once again, I'm not trading this week, so we probably won't meet again this week. This is kind of like a beginning of the week recap of the markets just to stay update with what has happened over the holidays. And then once again, if you look at the Forex calendar, there's not much happening. So there's not much to trade. But I thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video next week.